Now that we are sliding into spring and our exterior temperatures are warming up enough to the point that we can get things to cure without additional sources of heat, it's time to start paying attention to outside parts of the catamaran. Last fall, we started working on these seams of where the three parts of the cabin top came together. So these have already been glassed. Matt went through with our Total Boat epoxy fairing compound just to cover the seams, kind of protect them from the sun. But since it is going to be a mostly sunny, clear, and rain-free day today, what my job is going to be is I'm going to sand these down to fair them in a bit more and get our first coat of a primer on top of it. It's going to be so nice when we install those steps to get up here. That sun has really started to come out in the past few minutes since I've started setting things up. I thought it was going to be like a cloudy, kind of cool day, but it looks like it's going to be beautiful out here to work. Got the vacuum for dust collection, and Matt just put the 6-inch pad on our sander here. I've got 120 grit on it. Got my ear protection. And basically the goal today is just to get everything sanded enough to get the first coat of primer on, and we know we'll have to go back and do more touch-ups later. Although since it's warming up, we're mostly just looking to get this protected. It looks pretty good here. You can see where it's kind of blending in. So just gonna try and blend that in a little bit more. And I'm not gonna worry about going after any low spots once we get the primer on and that's sanded. We'll do that blue Dykem on top of it to show us the low spots. Then we can go back and fill it in. But right now, I just wanna kind of get a smooth coat across the top and get it keyed up so that I can get the primer on while it's still sunny and warm. And it'll be much easier to start moving forward on this. Working outside in the fresh air almost had me forgetting about personal protection, and I had to stop a few minutes in to switch up my gear and add a face mask. I was just sanding along there, and all of a sudden all of this dust started kicking up, and I wasn't sure what it was from. Of course, I've got my headphones on, I've got music going to my ears, and then it kind of dawned on me that, wait a second, maybe the vacuum isn't working anymore. So turned all that off, and sure enough, this has just quit on me. I don't know if like a breaker has switched or flipped, so gotta go fix that out. But so far, it's actually going really well. Let me show you the progress I've made so far. The areas right up here I will likely hand sand or go through and block just because I don't want to lose the shape. So mostly it's starting here, and might be able to go over this a little bit heavier because you can see there's areas that it hasn't run over, but in this spot I actually started to get through to where you can almost see the glass, so I definitely don't want to go that far. And in here as well, I don't know if I'm either going too heavy on the more inboard side or if that was just more lightly faired. And you can definitely see pinholes and other things that will need to get filled in later, but again, we're just going to get that primer on today and then go back and pay more attention to it. But other than the vacuum just pooping out of me, which should be an easy fix, it's going along pretty quickly, so I'm thinking that it should just be like a little over an hour to get this sanded, and then I can start mixing up the primer and get it on well before sunset, give it a couple of hours to cure before the temperature starts to drop for the night. So that is my goal for today. I've got one side done, and what I did notice is that the further aft I got on the cabin top, the lighter that the fairing compound had originally been on. There was actually a few spots before I even went to sand them that you could just see little bits of the fiberglass below, so I didn't need to go too heavy on them. If we take a look down, you can see the transition point pretty well. So barely needed anything down here. And now it's time to switch over to starboard side, where we've got the dagger board case. Since a few of the areas were never touched by the sander because they were low spots, I did want to go in and make sure the entire surface was keyed so the primer I would be applying would have something to grip onto. Doing a light scuff sand with a sheet of 120 that was on my sander, I lightly did a crosshatch pattern down the length of the seam and then hand sanded around the raised areas at the forward edge of the cabin top. Just before going in to mix the paint, I wanted to check the weather to make sure no afternoon storms were coming up in the forecast. The wind had picked up a lot since I started, and I wanted to see if it would be an issue for the rest of the afternoon. This is all information I would have shared with you on camera, but in addition to the voice-canceling gusts, we had Tucker working right next to us, moving gravel all around the workyard. Even though this was our first coat, we were skipping the Super Build primer and moving directly to our AlexSeal Finish Primer. Making a guess that 24 ounces in total would cover me, I poured the 1-to-1 ratio of base and converter and left it to its 15-minute induction time as I prepared the surface. Winds were growing stronger by the minute, and now that I had already mixed my paint, I wondered if working out here would be an issue. But it was too late to turn back, so I continued on with my acetone wipe down. As I was getting started, I realized I would have to keep one hand on the paint tray the entire time to keep it from blowing away, as well as spilling primer all over the cabin top. Definitely conditions we didn't have to worry about when we were inside the tent, but at this point, I'm still happy to be outside in the fresh air and sunlight. Just as I was starting the second coat, I noticed my foam roller was beginning to disintegrate and needed to be switched. Usually ending up with paint running all over my gloves during this task, I thought I had a solution for a clean switch, which in the end, my hands remained fairly untouched, but my jeans did not. Help. By the end of the afternoon, I'd managed to get 3 coats rolled onto each side, a solid finish for a sunny, windswept day on deck, and one important item checked off the list. Continuing our projects on the exterior of the boat, right now in early spring is a great time to work on things like seams here, which is where we had glued the hull to the hull side to the hull bottom before. It had originally gotten bonded with methacrylate, and then on the interior we had glassed it with some very thick, I think like 17-ounce fiberglass, 2 layers of that. So on the exterior here, it doesn't really need glassing for strength, but we are going to go through and just fill that line, put a little strip of glass on there, and then Fair that in to blend it so that everything can be painted again. And the great thing for today, with it being just a little bit cooler than it was a few days ago when I worked on the cabin top, is that I can get into Tyvek today, because once I get through this gel coat, there's fiberglass. It's going to be kind of spitting up, and that way I can fully protect myself without getting covered in fiberglass and getting totally itchy, which is something I'm so happy to mostly have left in the past at this point. Once again, I've got my trusty vacuum out, and it's connected just to this tiny belt sander here. We're not going too large in this spot. I did start on it yesterday evening, and so again, we're just looking to kind of take off on each side of the glass there, put a small strip, fill that in Fair, but what we definitely don't want to do is mess with this edge and try and have to reshape that again. From here aft is what I was able to do yesterday evening in about an hour and a half. It was freezing. The temperature was about 10 degrees colder than today. Strong winds. It was not comfortable at all. I was losing my light. So hopefully today will be much, much better. It is the end of my shift. The sun is starting to set. Going behind the tent has turned this whole area into shade, which has made it a bit harder to see, and my headlamps aren't charged. But I was able to get not all the way done. Judging by the window up there, that is in the V-berth, so yeah, this is stopping point tonight. But considering I started where that table is, still pretty good. I am not used to work like this. It's really hurting my back. I had to take a lot of breaks today, so kudos to Matt for doing this kind of thing all the time. I knew it'd probably be hard, and granted he has bigger muscles than I do, but I didn't know just how much it constantly hurts. So I'm going to keep this project up tomorrow. It's going to be a little bit warmer, and I might actually go back up to the cabin top too and throw some of that blue Dykem on it, give it a sand, and see how much fairing we can expect to do before we can start getting that painted and primed again.